Hi, Todd Benko with Prairie Edge Service. Just want to talk about how and what sandpaper progression I do from start to finish with a set of hair shears. If it's a stylus that I'm regularly servicing and the shears are in good condition when I get them, they just need a nice refreshing of the edge, not severely damaged. Could be 6 months, 9 months service with those shears. I typically find that I can start off with my 600 grit. I'm using the Mirka ceramic, and it's fairly well worn. I don't have to find that I have to replace these until they start heating up the steel. The other thing too is that I'll often clean this, spray it with alcohol, just take my tissue paper and just clean off, because the grit does fill with metal filings, and just by cleaning them out, just like a CBN wheel, you have to take WD-40 or something like that to clean a CBN. I find the same thing can be done with the ceramic sandpapers, is that you get an extra longer life by removing the infill that occurs. And I'm running this at about 30 to 40% speed. Then I progress to my second stage is 1200 grit. Now this is my finish or prep for buffing stage. I run this at about 60 to 70% speed. I find that, and it's a worn 1200. I get easily a month's use out of a pad like this, and the whole idea is to polish up the steel. Like a lot of times I even just hand them back, like my thinning shears, I'll just leave it at the 1200 grit in that stage. But for a mirror polish, what I want the 1200 to do is take out the bulk of the work that needs to be done with the polishing. So then I hit it with, I have Dennis Brooks's polishing pad here. This is got almost 2 years old. I do find that sometimes the edges start to break down, and all that I end up doing is, once it starts happening, I take the white polishing compound and just add it in to help with the fibers. You can see that the fibers are quite visible. I don't overload it with compound. I want some of the fibers there to be working as my polishing, and I'm just using a 1 micron diamond spray. So the whole thing about it is not having a true totally smooth surface. I want some of the fibers from Dennis's diamond polishing pad to be there, and that's the majority of the work. Now, if I have a situation where I've got a severely scratched shear, or something, like, let's say I've got a shear that's really badly damaged, or that needs to be reconvexed, where the edge is really, so I'll augment, and I'll start, instead of the 400 or the 600, I'll start with an 400 and get my burr started there. Then I'll knock the burr off with a white honing stick. I used to take it off and put it on my whetstone, but I found that the honing stick, I just want to flip that burr to the other side, and I want to make sure that I don't have any burr when I go to the 600, because the 600 will tell me if I'm apexing the edge. I want to make sure that I'm properly apexed with the 600 grit, because that's my edge finish. If I have to turn around and change the angle, let's say I've had someone sharpened the previous shear at 30 degrees and I'm trying to get back to 45 degrees. I will pull out my 120 grit and I will sharpen with 120 grit. I pull a burr with that, and I find that the burr is not fully apex. Even though I can have a huge burr, a lot of times, even with this, when you're making that transition from a much blunter angle back to a factory angle, you may not get an apex. So what I end up doing is doing the same sort of trick. I'll do 120 grit, I'll knock the burr off, and then I'll jump to the 400 grit. Or I'll do 120 grit and then follow it up by 400, and then knock the burr off before I get to the 600. I want to see a nice, consistent light reflection off the burr, off the edge of the shear with the 600. That tells me I'm fully apexed. Now what happens is, if I turn around and have a brand new 600 or something that's really scratched or something like that, or if I've used the 120 grit and I've over canvassed the area, gone too far up the shear, my magic eraser is actually an 800 grit. This is, I'm still using some of my old aluminum oxide 800s, and I find the 800, worn 800, acts like magic eraser. It just erases any of the scratches from like 120 grit or really badly damaged, so that when I do that transition from 600 to 800, and then I go to the 1200, and it gives me that prepped look before I hit the polishing pad with the diamond spray. And I'm only using 1 micron. Like, I'm not using aggressive 3, because I find that most of the work is succeeded with the 1200 grit at that higher speed. Like, I'm running that 60 to 70%. I used to, in the past, a lot of times have 2000 grit when I was running everything all at the same speed, but I found that now that I'm using the 1200 at a much higher speed, it has really dramatically cut down and made my polishing time a lot less. I don't have to use as much pressure. It's really just to bring up that shine. So the magic is the 1200 grit. Hope you find that useful. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.